they went back in time, or no, they didn't go back in time. They were caught in some kind of a time loop type thing, and they kept reliving the same day over and over and over again. And then Kelsey Grammer came out, and he was stuck in there. It was like the Enterprise C or something like that, right?
Gotcha. Something of that
I think
nature.
Tasha Yar came back. Oh,
We're live. Hey,
check it out.
ladies and gentlemen, hello there. Thank you for joining us. My name is Semulok. Thank you for joining us on the Riker Maneuver at PCR. With us, we have our chair in
Hey,
waiting.
what's going on, people? I am Josh. You know me behind the curtains as the guy typing as that hashtag show sometimes. I'm on camera now. That's weird, right?
It's a little strange.
A little
to
weird.
see
You've
on-
heard my voice, now you can see my face, and you see why I'm not on camera.
This is actually a face reveal for tonight, guys.
This is a face for radio, guys.
So today we're talking about the newest episode of the Discovery show. Episode, we're on 3? Or was it 4?
This is episode 4.
This is
Four,
episode
'cause
four.
First 2 were together. We had last week 3, and now
This is
4.
like one long episode as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah,
it's getting good. We're starting to see kind of the relationship between everybody, which is really important.
yeah, like all the relationships are actually like really starting to flesh out too. Now that we're actually in the 4th episode and we know what the storyline basically is, we can actually see where people are going and getting a feel for their motivations.
So, who do we want to talk about first?
Well, let's before we actually jump into the episode itself.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the references that were actually made.
Ooh, so there were some really awesome, almost Easter eggy kind of guys for assholes like us who are really into the Star Trek universe. First, I want to talk about Corbin 2, just because that was kind of an interesting throwback.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting one. I'm gonna have to turn the volume off somewhere, so give me just 1 second. I'm gonna walk away.
Sure, he's gonna walk away. I'm gonna put the entertainment in. So, so basically, Corbin 2. A little bit about why that was interesting. I heard it once and only once, and that was in the TNG universe. And in the TNG universe, Corbin 2, it doesn't. We don't really have a big reference point from the TNG universe, but it was just enough for me to go, hold on, stop the film. I need to look this up. And so we actually saw Corbin 2 in TNG very briefly with creatures.
Okay, so Corbin 2, the episode was the one where we first met, or it was the one where we first met Alexander Roshenko, which was Worf's son.
Right.
So he came onto the ship. He ended up getting enrolled into a school program, and they go on a trip to. It wasn't a zoo because they're on a ship, so it's not really a zoo. But they had like a display of creatures from various places. One of the creatures they found was a creature from Corbin 2. So that was the only reference that we were able to find to that planet, but.
Sure.
It does exist in future Trek lore someplace.
Yes, but it wasn't Corbin 2 kind of like. I mean, it's a very vague connection to this in the series, but wasn't there something on Corbin 2 how they, like even in the old series, it was like a dilithium like area?
No, so the connection to the current Star Trek series is that while they were doing this, while Alexander Roshenko was on the ship. They were also conducting a experiment with a new form of interstellar travel called the Solon Wave, I believe it was called. It was basically just like a warp bubble is what you have currently, and that engulfs the ship in a warp bubble. So you're actually kind of like surfing through space instead of flying.
Gotcha.
So the wave is the same sort of thing, but instead of being encased in a bubble, you're just riding the wave.
Gotcha. I don't remember how that episode turned out. It must have been bad because they still used warp.
Yeah, it turned out that they couldn't use that technology for whatever reason.
Right. So a big point that we have in the episode today is finally how the spores work, per se. The dark matter sort of feel. It's connected to a creature, and
well, sort of. It's a weird symbiotic relationship. So we still don't know how the spores actually do what they're doing and provide this function. But what we do know is how to navigate them.
right. Well, the thing is, it's so. I still find the idea of biological warp engines a weird thing, just because biologics don't do that. Like,
It's not a new concept in Star Trek though.
it's not a new concept in Star Trek. They've done it since TNG and maybe
There was it TNG? You had Tin Man, who was a biological ship, which was capable of warp travel. Farscape, you had that ship that was a biological
that was so
thing.
cool. But no, and I think it's not that I can't bite onto it. It's just in my brain, I know there's another word for the back of that idea, and it's dark matter. It's like I hate to say that, like that's a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like it's a science block for me. Needless to say, moving beyond that though, it's
Right, but that also brings in another reference that we have though. So Encounter at Farpoint.
right.
So the very first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they were investigating a new station that the Federation was going to be buying from these people who had colonized this area on the planet, and it turned out that the Farpoint station was created out of this like giant space jellyfish thing that they were able to manipulate into creating a space station on the planet, which is one of the reasons that Q came in and all that kind of stuff happened. So this also isn't the first time that we've seen some kind of a stellar creature used for
the
utility
Federation
like that.
ends.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, this is by technical mean, this is the first time we've actually seen a universe connecting to the rest of the TNG universe. How do you feel about the connection so far?
I mean, it's still a very vague connection. I feel like these are more references to other things in Star Trek than a connection to actual TNG. I mean, we know that they tell us that yes, this is in the Prime universe. This isn't in the Kelvin universe. I know there's a lot of people online now talking about it being in the Mirror universe and not actually being part of the main the actual real Prime universe. But as far as we know, it is. But we don't know kind of where it really fits.
Do you think that it's more? Do you think they kind of made that little itty bitty connection for maybe like fan service? For the old Treks, who are watching closely for
the Corvin 2 reference, absolutely. That was definitely I don't know now the Encounter at Farpoint and the rest of that. I don't know if that is more saying, hey, here's things that we've done in Star Trek before, so now let's see how we can rework them for another show, or if it's just, hey, here's a good idea, and now people are just putting it together. Oh, hey, they've done things like this before because it's Star Trek and that happens.
And then speaking of weird fan servicey things that we notice, hitchhiker technology. For those who are kind of involved with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy universe, they had a little bit of it in this episode.
A little bit.
No, but it's like it's like one of the main parts of it though, which is the probability engine of warp travel.
Well, in Hitchhiker's Guide though, it was the improbability drive.
Yeah.
And in this, it was just a reference that someone said an impossible. What was it?
No, it was the improbable nature of warp extends the farther you go out with this particular kind of technology. Yes. So by technical means, they could turn into a rubber duck. Who knows? Like that's literally what they were getting at.
Yeah. Although now we have a means of control, so not exactly.
It's still cool though. Like some nerd on the Reddit. Hey, why don't we put this in?
The infinite improbability drive. That's what it was called. Yeah. On the the Heart of Gold?
Yes. But and then furthermore, we have one more kind of like kerplunker of a throwback, and that's the name of Elon Musk.
I mean, that was just that's a pop culture reference, is what that was.
It is.
That's like on the Orville, where they're sitting there watching Friends or doing whatever.
Watching Rudolph the
Red-Nosed Ranger. Ranger.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Ranger.
There we go.
I just found our next T-shirt, guys.
Can we make that like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Walker, Texas Ranger?
Dude, we can have so many shirts of just Rudolph the Red-Nosed insert
something.
Yes.
Insert something. But yeah, so that's really all Elon Musk was that was just for people to be like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. That's not a Star Trek reference. That's a real life reference, because they sandwiched him between the Wright brothers, another real life reference, and Zephyr Cochrane.
And moving on to more references in the show, back to Corbin 2. For those who have like a giant map of the galaxy or something and know kind of where they're pinpointed, this is actually the first time we're able to pinpoint where they are at in the universe, which is really cool, I think.
I still have no idea where anything's at.
Well, I mean,
I saw that thing and I'm like, nope, I'm lost.
well, I don't know where the specific area is, like for like because I'm not that I don't know the geography, but someone who does know the geography now knows where they're located, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Justin Dole says, yes, the freaking improbability job. I was waiting for them to turn into characters of Yard. Yes, I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that. And then he also says, Elon Musk is this fan service. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a Star Trek nerd in the world who doesn't know who Elon Musk is.
What I'd be interested in though is in this new Star Trek universe, where does Elon Musk fit into the technology? Like where by the time Elon Musk dies, how much has he actually contributed to what Zepp and Cochran eventually did?
Depends on how much they're going to throw his name away.
Sure.
Let's see. Moving on though, let's talk about that saucer twirling in space a second. So, okay. So the saucer is where people mainstay live and do things. And when they go into this warp drivey thing, you see this thing turning and doing all this really cool. Like, not only does it turn this way, but it also turns this way.
Right. Well, so that's the effect of going into the spore drive.
Spore drive. We're gonna call it spore drive for now.
Spore drive. I think that's what they were calling it on the show.
SD.
So when the spore drive kicks in, it does a horizontal flip it or vertical.
Well, yeah, it does the horizontal, but also does this vertical.
Right,
spin.
but that's the I don't even know what that is. It's almost like a centrifuge type thing on the inside of the ship.
It's basically creating a gravity well, so probably that the spores can move through this gravity well. The problem I have with that though is that you have this spinny disc, and we're gonna get all sciencey for a second about it. But Justin says, producer Josh knows this shit. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
That's why he's doing the show in absentee. But the thing is, this spinning thing, if you're living within this thing or even around this thing, and that thing's spinning as fast as it can, basically, you're dealing with G-forces within this gravity well that are fucking crazy. They should have been ripped to shreds. The people inside these things, which is why I find the science is complete on this.
I mean, you're also assuming that people live inside of that area. I'm assuming that entire saucer section, except for the inner part that doesn't move, is probably all science. You know, that'd be like saying, okay, well, these people who work at CERN that are surrounded by a particle accelerator, they're not in the particle accelerator. They're in the middle of it or outside of it.
But that's just it. In order for them to survive this spinning of death, they would have to be in the engine. Everyone would literally have to file into the engine area to stay away from that gravity well, which that could make sense. But even then,
maybe
how much can it spin before it falls literally under its own gravity?
But we also don't know how much the inertial dampers
I mean, the shock that maybe if they had gravity well shocks there, that might.
Well,
make a little more sense.
we know that when you're traveling at warp speed, the reason that they don't all fly to the back of the ship is because they have the inertial dampers, which is why whenever you hear the inertial dampers or whatever, people are shaking around and doing whatever because they're not solid. That's what keeps gravity in place and all that kind of stuff in place.
See, the thing is, I would love and this is my stupid nerdy Trek self. I would love for them to explain these things like they do in TNG, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm accepting this as just okay. It's Star Trek science.
But I'm not. But even Star Trek science is real science up to this very recent point, and that's
yeah. But I mean, there's nothing. Okay, so we're talking about a ship that's working off of a drive that's built upon spores that's now being navigated by a giant. Whatever tardigrade thing,
which we'll get to in a moment. We're working on.
So if I'm willing to accept that, I can be like, okay, yeah, that inner circle on the ship spinning, yeah, that's fine.
Like I said, my stupid science brain is going to ignore it, but that's anyway. I do want to talk about the tardigrade, which I think is super cool. That's actually a cool sciencey thing that I can totally grab onto.
Yeah, now being a giant tardigrade that travels through space, teleporting to wherever these spores are in order to ingest them,
loses me a little bit, but
I don't know. But again, in Encounter at Farpoint, there were giant jellyfish creatures that floated through space. So.
True. Well, yeah, no, and there are some things that there are things that I'm totally down to suspend belief for. Justin Blues, is it really science? Because I don't see Stephen Hawking busting his theoretical science nut to Star Trek.
We can ask Neil deGrasse Tyson on the other
hand.
He
busts his nut all the time over
it's like he's the first one that'll get online and be like,
This is bullshit. But no, the tardigrade, I think it's a really cool idea that they kind of, I guess, mutated in such a way that they became these big, giant, hulking, lovable, cuddly creatures.
Yeah, because I mean, tardigrades are the only thing that are able to exist in certain areas where they exist.
Right, they're extremophiles.
Right. So like in the Marianas Trench or whatever, where it's like boiling, there's nothing else down there except for tardigrades. So them being able to exist in space makes sense, and them being able to possibly be who knows how many millions of years old, and just like evolve into that thing, it's not unreasonable.
So okay. So now we have this tardigrade. While we're watching, we realize that it's harmful for this creature to... Basically, this creature communicates with the spores to create the warp drive necessary to go to wherever they need to go. The question, though, is how... It's a harmful thing to this tardigrade. How long do you think it will take before they, I don't know, release it or find another way to harvest it or whatever the case where it doesn't harm this creature?
I don't know that they will. I'm going to assume that that's part of the conflict in the show. Because you saw how Michael Burnham was reacting to, she was like, oh, I figured out what it's for. And then they put it into the thing, and you saw her face do like one of those like, oh,
we're doing terrible things.
Right, like also it was
creatures.
like, okay, we're doing something bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, I even said it in the first episode, or the second episode, third episode, there we go, where we're seeing Commander Lorca. He is a
Captain Lorca.
Captain Lorca. He's a Taoist. He has a very Tao principle where it's like everything for the greater good, even if that means doing harm to create that better good. And so it's about this time that we're going to start seeing major conflict.
Oh, of course. And that, I think, plays into a lot of people online, again, are discussing the fact that the assignment number or assignment letter, registry number of the Discovery is NCC 1031. And Section 31 is basically Starfleet's shadowy organization that will do all the things that they can't do in public.
Right.
So if that is the case, then a person like Lorca does make sense to be in command of that ship.
Justin Deluge says, what about Section 31? Somebody please talk about Section 31. Well, guess what? We're talking about Section 31. And this is a very 31-ish thing so far. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, how much do you actually know about Section 31? Because I know a little bit,
I don't know,
but not a lot.
I don't know much about it at all. The thing is, if they continue working the Section 31 timeline, which I'm going to assume that this is kind of very Section 31, I'm hoping to see more intrigue. I want to see more mysterious things. Like, I mean, this drive is going to be an interesting point throughout season 1. I don't think it's going to go beyond season 1.
No, I don't. I see the sport drive being the catalyst into the series that drives it forward, and that each subsequent season will probably not. It's not going to have like, oh, this is the technology of this season, but there's going to be another storyline.
Here's what's probably going to happen. There's going to be a big fight. They're going to find some way to stabilize the tardigrade to do what it needs to do, and then all of a sudden you got this tardigrade bug just kind of hanging out for the rest of the season. Because the thing is, the spore drive is interesting, but it's not.
See, I don't think that's going to happen, because if you look at what happened on the Glen,
it turned everyone inside out, basically.
Well, I mean, there was that, but what you find out in this episode is that the tardigrade is responsible for all of the explosions outward from that experimental area. It was that it apparently busted loose from wherever they were holding it in, and it broke out. So yeah, they're gonna keep it in this that containment area when they're not using it. But I think there's a pretty good chance that when it's in use, it's going to try and break out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it will probably break out once, maybe even twice. But the thing is, it can't possibly sustain as a plot device for very long. Mainly because we still have the Klingons doing their thing, which is their own. That's a whole storyline in on itself, which is the main storyline anyway. Like, this is a throwaway for something bigger, and I feel it. It's gonna be a throwaway for something bigger. Well,
I mean, the whole bigger thing is the Klingon War.
Sure.
Because that's where the season is focused on, is the 10 years before the original series. Right before the original series is when they had signed the peace treaty, I guess, with the Klingons. Mm-hmm. Also, jumping ahead towards the end of the episode, we know that the albino Klingon. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he's being sent off to make some kind of a major sacrifice because the matriarchs are going to be giving him something, or doing something to him,
which could be the gene therapy thing that we eventually see. TNG Worf maybe looking like, well, very possible. Dante Lamore says, yeah, I agree with Justin. Sorry, long time watcher, first time chatter. Dante, welcome to the show. Very cool to see you. Yeah, and he agrees. It's with red shirt. Samuel Locke, what it do? It's a throwaway for something bigger, and it is going to be. Here's what's probably going to happen. They're going to milk that tardigrade till it actually dies, which is kind of contradictory to the tardigrade in itself. But they're going to milk it till it dies.
That's also against like Starfleet protocol, really.
Exactly, which is going to cause the catalyst for infighting within the Discovery.
Right. Well, we already know that Saru isn't a fan of Captain Lorca. And, that's something that started to become apparent last episode. Last episode was the first episode that we saw Captain Lorca really. But, you kind of got the feeling that he didn't really agree with a lot of things that were going on that ship. And in this episode, when Michael brought him to see the tardigrade, to see what his threat ganglia, is that what it was? The threat ganglia were doing. He's like, oh, you're going to fit right in on this ship. So here's another question though: why is Saru on the ship if he doesn't agree with the captain, and he's not a fan of what's going on?
Because it still furthers his research. He has to keep going with it, even if he has to work on his dick. Now I have a far flung theory that Isaac, like Lorca, being played by Isaac, he's not gonna last. I think the big cliffhanger of the first season, he's done. He gets killed. He gets thrown off. Something happens.
I don't know if I don't see that happening.
Well, the thing is, he's a good bad guy within the Discovery and its world, but eventually something's going to topple it. So,
maybe, but we don't know that he. Yes, he's doing some things that are super shady and not necessarily ethical, but we don't know that he's really like a bad guy.
Well, this is it. If you're unethical in the Star Trek universe, that equivalates to the bad guy. And the thing is, what's probably going to end up happening, because you have multiple amount of people who could be captain in this regard. What's his name?
Which guy?
Paul Stamets could possibly.
Anthony Rapp's character.
Yeah, Anthony Rapp's character could take over. Michael could even take over, which would solidify her name as the Mutineer. Which that would be fucking awesome.
Right, but at this point, she's basically
the captain killer.
She's been reinstated, so she's a mutineer. But depending on that would be an interesting arc for her character, starting a mutiny because of something that she shouldn't have been starting a mutiny for, and now starting a mutiny because of something she should be.
Dude, I'm telling you, if that happens, I would be so. It's almost very Game of Thrones-y kind of feel. Like everyone has a different way to provide, and then maybe there's something that happens that's so crazy that everyone rushes for the chair.
I feel like there's a lot of people on the ship though that also just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Where it's like some people just don't know.
Like Michael's roommate, like it seems like she's completely clueless. She seems like she's like completely clueless in other ways too. But as far as like what's actually really going on the ship.
Right.
She's kind of clueless.
I don't know if she's ranked. She's an ensign, right? She's not ranked very high.
I don't remember what her rank is. I
think she's an ensign, and if she's an ensign, then she's probably not going to know very much of what's going on in the different programs. Like she seems to be working on the propulsion system. That's true, but I don't think she knows the full effects of what she's actually doing. And that seems like it for a lot of the people. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Not necessarily, because if this is a Section 31 ship, then that's what they signed up for.
To an extent. The thing is, like, if we were to look at real life, stuff like DARPA or some other, thing, you can work on different sections, but not necessarily knowing what the entire arc of your mission is.
Looks like she's actually just a cadet.
So she's not even an ensign.
Yeah, her rank is cadet.
So she's the Wesley of the group. That's basically what that tells me. So she probably doesn't know jack from shit.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, she probably has. That's why she's like so upbeat, because she has no fucking clue what's going on. That.
She also, but she also seems like she is the moral compass of the show to an extent, though.
Well, maybe the moral compass to Michael specifically, but as far as I'm concerned, there's not really so much of a moral compass. I mean, she's a bright spot in a dark world. That's what I see her as. I mean, like no matter like because Michael's kind of a shitty person, and you have Lorca who's also kind of a shitty person, and I always forget his alien ass name. Saru is also kind of a dickhead. Everyone's kind of a dickhead in this universe.
But see, Saru, I don't think he's a shitty person. I think he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah,
and there's a difference. I'm kind of a dick, but I'm not a shitty person. Like I don't think I'm a shitty person.
Right. But I mean,
he's Star-Lord.
Okay, between shits and dicks, she's the head, like she's the bubble in an otherwise shitty dicky world.
Yeah.
Speaking of shitty dicky things, they ate her.
Who?
The Klingons.
Ate who?
The former captain. Oh, I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Georgina?
Something like that. So
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh. So what ends up happening is she
that made me kind of not squirm, but I was like, wait, did you just say
it was so casual too?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we ate her. Like,
well, I mean, but
okay.
that was in the midst of it, like a really tense discussion though, because they were like, oh, well, this isn't what you were thinking as you were picking the bones off of her head.
Like
as you were eating her.
Lily's, like they really got into it. Like,
yeah, I mean, that was a very graphic statement.
From her eyeballs, like, whoa. Like, the thing is, I don't think I've ever heard Klingon actually eating people. Like, that's a very different thing.
Well, let's talk about the Klingons for a second, though.
Oh, they're so cool.
So in this episode, there was really only there was a conflict with the Klingons, but there wasn't really anything there because they flew in at the end. They shot at them, and then that was it. But the Klingons on their own, there was a lot going on there.
There was so much important stuff that was going on with the Klingons because you have the white guy. I can say you have this white guy who's like, because I don't remember any Klingons' names. Don't ask me to do that. But like you have the main torchbearer who basically just got a coup put upon him. Like he went to go get this dirithium to processor to get them moving because they haven't moved in 6 months.
Right. Their problem was that he wanted to take the dilithium processor off of the Shenzhou.
Yeah. And they didn't want to mix their technology.
Right, and I don't understand why they were like, "Oh no, you can't use that on our ship because then that's blasphemy."
Well, it's a purity problem. They even said it. We have to keep our technology pure to our own technology, which, yes, very kind of racist, Mr. Dante.
But that's also it's weird because that's not the Klingons that we know from the Next Generation or from any other iteration of Star Trek. Like,
except for maybe the movies.
Maybe, but we don't know what they're like. But like typically, the Klingons would just be like, that shit's ours now. We blew it up. Let's take it.
Yeah, I do find there is a certain disconnect with these Klingons versus the rest. I mean, there are core tenets where it's like, it's very honoristic, very ritualistic, very violent.
It seems like they've taken the caste system that we had in Star Trek with the Klingons previously, where it was like, oh, there was this house and there was this house and there was this house, and they've taken that to an extreme where it's now this like super caste system where there are ranks and tiers depending on who you are.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually don't mind it. I actually find their extreme caste system very intriguing. I'm like, I want to know more about what this is, who controls what and why. But we're not gonna get that. Like that's.
I mean, we might eventually.
But it's gonna have to. That's gonna be much farther along.
Yeah, this season we're not gonna get it. We'll get little drips of it here and there.
We might get it season 4 or something. Back maybe because like I'm hoping that the end state is leading up to. Klingons actually joining the Federation and then finding out the Romulans and the Cardassians are assholes.
Well, I mean, the Klingons never actually find it. So the Klingons never joined the Federation. Even up through Next Generation, there was a peace treaty.
Yeah, I don't mean like joining the Federation in the literal sense.
Yeah, but there was never actually any like oh hey let's
Well, no, like it's a don't fuck with us, we won't fuck with you. We'll help you out sometimes. Cool, let's do that. Which
I mean, it was definitely more an amicable treaty than what they had with the Romulans.
Sure. Well, Romulans have always been consistently assholes. Like, there's never been a time where a Romulan isn't a bad guy. Which, I mean, let me ask you a question, just randomly. Between the Cardassians and the Romulans, who do you think is more dicky?
That's a hard choice. I
know, right?
I'm going to say the Romulans, even though the Cardassian, because like there were, I mean there's good Romulans too, obviously. Like
Right.
we know they're out there, and we know that there's good Cardassians out there.
I
mean,
sometimes.
No,
Like,
I mean,
not even a lot though. Maybe a
I mean, there was at least the one guy that was on Deep Space Nine who
the one guy.
and then there was the one that someone ended up going to Cardassia posing as a Cardassian.
No, I thought they were posing as a Romulan, so that way they wouldn't get caught. Or is that? No, that's a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, that happens in everything. There's posing as a Romulan, posing as a Cardassian, posing as a Vulcan, posing as a Klingon.
So on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, that's happened a lot.
If you remember in TNG, like Captain Picard got his ass whooped by that one Cardassian who was.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I mean, he was there for like two.
Yeah, it was
three
they're all
episodes.
4 lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that was such a good like story arc. That was so good. But that made me realize that Cardassians are probably the bigger dicks than the Romulans are.
Maybe.
Well,
I mean, they're probably about equal.
Well, no, Romulans generally just want to stay within their territory. They're like, whatever. It's usually Cardassians that go out and pick fights, though.
It depends on what they're going after.
Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I totally sidetracked that. Didn't mean to. What else to talk about in this?
Well, let's talk about what actually happened with the Klingons.
Right. So the Klingons, we're still on them. So they had a coup, and we have this, I guess, a female Klingon. That was a female Klingon.
I'm assuming, like, I think more of the Klingons that we're seeing in there are female, but it's hard to tell which ones are female and which ones aren't, because these Klingons look so vastly different than what we've seen before. Well, I haven't seen any indicators of gender on any of them.
Well, I mean, I want to say that she looked a little feminine. I don't want to be that guy.
For me, it was the voice. Like, the voice on a couple of them sounded feminine, but like they all to me looked
him, her,
it,
mailbox, whatever gender that other the other one.
It's not for us to decide.
Yeah, not for us to decide. Basically, she, it is trying to help out. I hate when I don't remember. Was it Toll? No, Toll was the bad guy.
No, Takuma.
Yeah. So
Takuma is the guy who died in the big battle.
Right, and so his torchbearer is trying to carry on the combined legacy, and Toll, which is the bad guy, he wants to break that up and be like, no, fuck this, we're gonna do our own thing. And so he took his provisions of food that he kept for 6 months, I guess, and put it to a ship to win their loyalty. He gets thrown out to the Shenzhou to die, and then this feminine Klingon. There we go. This feminine Klingon.
It was basically his first in command.
Yeah, his number one. Kind of like low-key stabs him in the back, but also to help him survive.
Vok? Sorry, Neostar 9. Was Vok the name of the Klingon?
It was
Vok.
Vok. Okay. It was Vok. Justin Deluge says Kardashians are definitely dicks. I mean, they ruin good people. First Kirk, then poor Jenner dude. Last but not least, Kanye. Yes, Kanye is a Kirk. Oh, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I get it. Anyway.
Northwest.
Yes, Northwest. So, but the thing is, his number one then says you need to go to the matriarchs to, I guess, I want to say ascend. That's to become an ascended Klingon, which is what it sounds like.
Right, which I'm assuming that this is when they're getting into the genetic testing or the genetic serum testing, which caused the weird shit that we saw in the original series.
Right, and
I guess.
My question is, with this gene therapy, whatever be the case, like, what is it that they gain doing it?
I don't know, because like, if you look at them in the original series, they looked like humans, except with goatees and pointy eyebrows. So I don't know what it was supposed to do.
Well, I mean, the looks aside, I mean, maybe, I don't know, smarter, better, faster, stronger.
Maybe it's. I mean, maybe it was to help them infiltrate.
Maybe,
because if you look at that one episode that the Klingons were in of the original series, the one dude that was on the ship, they found out that he was a Klingon only because the Tribbles didn't like him. So we've also now seen a Tribble on Captain Lorca's desk.
Fucking Tribble.
So I mean, the Tribble that was on his desk obviously could have just been a reference, be like, hey, look, Tribbles are a thing, we have them. Or it could have been some kind of other deeper seated reference.
Right. Well,
I'm assuming not, but
well, no. With the Klingons though, again, like the writing for the Klingons is it's good. It's so good. Like I don't even at this point I don't even care about the Federation. I just want to know what's going on with the goddamn Klingons.
Yeah, I mean it's super interesting because like we were discussing during the episode, because you were talking about how like most Star Trek is this ideal world where like everything is bright and shiny and all the crew people do what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Whereas in the show, it's that dark and gritty. Captain Lorca is a shitty guy. Saru's a shitty guy. All these people on the ship are shitty people, and like I pointed out that in that discussion, there's always another side. Like in Insurrection, the people who built that radiation collector to take all the radiation from that planet that were keeping people young, or in any of the TNG episodes when they went up against a Starfleet officer that was doing something super shady. What we're seeing now is those shady officers doing those things.
Sure, and it is a big departure from Star Trek, and it's actually something I'm still getting used to. I'm still getting used to this dark and gritty world because it's like it's not the Star Trek I grew up with.
I agree. So the kind of Star Trek that I like is like the Next Generation, where each episode, for the most part, was a self-contained story, right. And it was giving us a more hopeful view of the future. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I'm liking the series. It's
good so far.
The storytelling is great. The script. The actors, the action, the CGI, like everything about the series is good. It's just not the Star Trek that we're used to.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about Michael's and Saru's current relationship in this episode, because it got real testy, like more so than we're used to. I mean, she literally called him down to see if he was freaking lying with his little gill, whatever you want to call these things. She called him down for that to see if he foresaw the Tardigrade thing as a threat, right?
Because that was all for that test, for her to walk in there and be like, I can go in there, it's not going to attack me.
Well, sure, but then there's also he uses that guilt thing against her, which he finds her a threat regardless, which she objectively hasn't really done anything to him,
except kill half the people on the ship that he was serving on and try and take out his captain and commit mutiny.
Well, yeah.
But other than that, no,
but the
nothing.
thing is, they also lived and survived because of her, regardless of how he feels. Like, that should be like a thing where it's like, hey, like, you really aren't a threat to anybody, and she isn't, at the moment.
Right.
And so, like, I'm wondering where that relationship is going to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I see them maybe eventually working together against Lorca in some way.
Right.
Maybe. The kind of, okay, both of us know that he's doing something wrong. We don't like each other, but if we're going to get through whatever this is, we have to work together.
Right. Well, here's an interesting, again, far-flung theory, where it's like, maybe, like I swear to God, Lorca's not going to last. He's not going to do that, just because he's too much of a presence to be there for very long. If it's not by the end of season 1, it's going to be season 2, and the question is who's going to take over. And I think we saw a little glimmer of who that's going to be, and it's going to be Paul Stamets. The reason being, we even heard it. His fucking ship, his fucking research, his everything is in this ship. Like, it makes sense that he would actually take over after Lorca oversteps his boundary.
Eventually, there was that one point in the episode where he was like, I'm just going to take my ball and I'm going to go home.
Yeah, he literally, like, screw you guys, I'm out of here. And Lorca's like, go ahead, motherfucker, do it, see what happens. Like, he literally was like, see what happens. And it's such a foreshadowing event. Between those two, one of those motherfuckers are going to die, and probably by each other's hands. One of the two is going to happen. That might even be the cliffhanger for season 1. Maybe.
I don't know.
And then, what's her name died?
What's her name? The security commander person.
I called the shit out of that man that I called.
Shit, I just had it.
So the lady who died, she got killed by the big giant tardigrade. Like, let's just be honest. I knew she was gonna die. Like the very first
Commander
episode
Landry.
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 It was like the very first time I saw her, and she's pushing around Michael. I'm like, she gonna die. She might as well wear a red shirt. I knew she was gonna die.
I mean, she probably wins the Dick of the Episode award.
Yes, she's definitely a cock monster. But the thing is, like, people like that, as we said, they don't last long. It's just a matter of when. I'm actually kind of surprised it wasn't by like a person's hands, but I guess it.
Well, I'm not because the way she was pushing Michael to test this thing and get some sort of a actionable weapon out of it, and you knew that something was going to go wrong.
Oh yeah, no, she was so fucking annoying about that
too. I mean, the only thing about her that didn't scream red shirt was the fact that she wasn't wearing a red shirt.
Yeah, basically. And I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that. Like, there's going to be a lot more setups where people just want to rush it. And then, someone's like, you shouldn't do that, whether it's Tully or Michael or even Saru. Yeah, one of these people, I highly advise that you don't do it for these obvious fucking reasons, you idiot. And, of course, that person like, I don't give a shit, fuck you, let's do it, and then they die.
Well, I mean, there's going to be one of two things that happen because of that. Depending on how big the character is, either A, yeah, they're going to die, or B, it's going to have some sort of serious detriment that happens, and he's going to be like,
yeah,
told you.
And that's it. I think that's how they're going to, that's possibly how Lorca is going to get set up too. The thing is, like, he's hell bent on using this tardigrade now that it's a thing. We actually saw that in the previews of, on the next episode of, we see this tardigrade is being pushed to the limit as far as what it can take. And, you're starting to see this crew starting to go at each other on kind of how to go about it. And it's getting to a point where either Lorca is going to kill the thing, or someone's going to take him out of command. I doubt that, but
see, I see the thing dying as a very likely probability. Like I can't say, oh yeah, it's definitely going to die, but that could definitely cause an issue because the thing is, they don't know where the Glen got it from.
Right.
They don't know how it found it,
and
so they're not going to know how to find another one of these things to use.
And as far as they're concerned, it's the first and last of its kind. Justin Luge says, "Yo, the show's so good. Why did they put it on their streaming service? Isn't it better to be on TV and get more eyes on something you spend this much more on?" Well, the reason they're doing this is so they can prop up their own streaming service, and so they're using this. What's probably going to happen, we've talked about it in the last couple weeks, where it might end up leapfrogging seasons. So after season 1's done, season 2 starts rolling, season 1 gets put on a marathon or something, or gets put on Netflix. I think it's already on Netflix in certain countries where they don't have CBS. So they're trying to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens at the end of October, because obviously CBS All Access, and because of this, has seen, they're saying, record numbers and people signing up, but what they're not putting out there is that they're giving everyone a free week, and then if you say, okay, I want to cancel after this free week, they're saying, okay, well, here's a free month. So, and basically everyone has a free month of the CBS All Access service. If the show is actually as good as CBS is now saying that it is, with the reason that people are all signing up for the service, then those people will continue to stay on after the end of October, and once they have to start paying for it, and then again,
$160 million, $8 million an episode, 15 episodes, which is the most I've ever seen for a first season of anything good. No, like
Game of Thrones,
8 episodes for the first season.
Yeah, but how much?
Right now they're up to.
How much did they spend on the first season?
Not much. I would say they probably spent maybe $2 or $3 million. Right now they're $15 million.
Daniel Jerome, I know I saw you in the chat. Westworld. How much did Westworld spend on their first season? I remember on that show we were talking about how the first episode they spent like a quarter of the budget or something on just that episode. That was an insane amount.
Anna Miles says it's on Netflix for me. I think
yeah, because
Germany, right?
Anna Miles, I believe, is in Jamaica.
Oh, okay. $25 million for which one?
For the first episode, I think.
For the first
episode? Was that the episode or was that the season?
And the thing is, it's going to depend. Like, if it's Westworld, like they spend a lot of money on Westworld, but that's because they're trying to use that as the after Game of Thrones thing. So I mean, the thing is, that much money put into for a season or an episode, there's a very specific reason, because they don't just do it because fuck you. That's why. Like, they do it for very specific reasons. Westworld is to replace Game of Thrones. Star Trek is to prop up
the streaming service. Right.
No one's gonna spend that much money because it's a fun thing to do. No.
All right, and again, like I said, we'll see how well it's actually doing at the end of October when everyone has to start paying, and then again, we'll see at the end of, or the beginning of December, November, whenever the last episode airs before they go on their winter break, and then once the season actually ends, it will, like, whether people keep paying for the service after Star Trek is over will prove whether the service is functional or not.
So CBS, they cover. I'm trying to remember what shows they. I know they have like Big Bang Theory. Do they have the Good Doctor? I think they have the Good Doctor, which is getting
CBS has Scorpion, MacGyver.
So they do. I think they
Hawaii
do.
5-0. They've got tons of shows, but those are all on the network. Those are. I mean, they're all on the streaming service, of course. But you can also get most of those on Netflix.
Yeah, but if you're like me, who doesn't, I don't do cable. I don't have it. Don't need it. Like, do I want to watch these things? It's not my fucking demo, so I don't really care too much about it.
Right. But I don't know. CBS is on Hulu though too, right?
What is
CBS?
I don't know.
So it's like day after or 2 days after you can watch the shows. I'm just curious, like how they're working it.
The thing is, what CBS is basically saying is we're ready to have a war in big bold letters, and that's, I think, what everyone's starting to say.
Right, but CBS is also, like NBC, ABC, Fox, and the CW. They're a broadcast network. They're not like HBO or Cinemax, where the subscribers pay specifically for that channel. So CBS, the only way they make money right now is off of advertising.
Sure.
So this is an additional revenue stream for them.
But that's just it. Like Star Trek, I mean, they're going to have all the broadcasts because that's not going to matter to them. The thing is, they are, like, Star Trek is the first of their premium services. And if it becomes something that they can use, they're going to use their back catalog to push the rest of it. And then
absolutely.
use the remainder to start doing what Netflix and Amazon and everyone else is doing. And the thing is, it's going to start to create this kind of war where now we now have a saturated new media market, which is really weird to say. Really weird to say.
I mean, I've been trying to figure this out recently. I'm looking to cut cable myself just because it's $200. I'm spending $200 a month now on cable. So we've been looking at like the Hulu with live TV, the PlayStation Vue with live TV, and all these different services that are out there. But my concern is, when is too many streaming services going to be too many for people? Because there's going to come a point where paying for all the streaming services are just as expensive as paying for a cable subscription.
But that's just it. Like, here's what's going to happen. You have all these independent people. They're doing their thing, as we're saying. It's going to get so crowded to the point where, like, Hulu's it's actually a great what is going to happen in the future, basically. Like, Hulu has all these channels and everything else. There's going to be an even bigger Hulu in maybe 10 years that covers all of these. Everything is going to grow and expand and expand and expand, and eventually it's going to implode. And it's going to be just like cable is now, except it's going to be streaming services instead of, Time Warner and Comcast. Yeah, and the thing is, that's why even
DirecTV has their own streaming only live TV service plan. It's just like Hulu with live TV, but it's DirecTV's service.
And it's getting to a point where you're not going to have TVs anymore. It's just TV computer,
Yeah. I mean, it's already that. I've got a smart TV. I can watch Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff on my 46-inch screen at home.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you're going to notice more
or it's just going to be a monitor. Like, I've got my Xbox plugged into that, and I can do anything with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, no one's arguing that there's too many streaming services.
I'm arguing that there's too many streaming services.
There is. What I'm saying is, like, right now, if you wanted... Let's say you wanted everything bunny ear. All you need is Amazon, Hulu, HBO, and Netflix. Those are the big four. Those are
but then if you want to watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead, you need Starz. If you want to watch Homeland, you need Showtime. If you want to watch Disney stuff, you're going to need the new Disney streaming service. If you want the new Teen Titans show, you're going to need to get the DC streaming service. If you want there's still
you're
all these other things that are out there.
Well, you're always going to have exceptions. Like, that's just how that's the Wild West we're kind of living in right now, and we're getting to a point where that Wild West needs to finally move into the big city. We got to get to a point where it's like, okay, you get all these channels for this price, you get all these channels for this price. Like, it's going to be cable. New media. Netflix
did definitely peg the model. They're still struggling though. They're losing.
They're bleeding money.
With all their new services, trying to attract new people, because that's the problem. Is what do you do when you have all of these other content providers that are providing content, and you were just providing old episodes of TV shows.
Well, that's just it. Like right now, Netflix is in a relatively good place. I mean, they still have debt up the asshole, and they're spending even more next year for more content. I know why they're doing this. They're putting all this debt forward, saying we're gonna make.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna push all these. Like they have so much new content right now. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get away from syndication of other shows. Because the thing is, let's say I wanted to do Friends. Friends is a syndicated contract. Is going to cost me about $3 million, like $2-3 million an episode.
But that's all on Netflix now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen this yet, look up. You're watching a Star Trek show, so I'm assuming all of you guys are into sci-fi. Look up a trailer for a series called Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. It's looks amazing. Bryan Cranston's in it. Cranston is in one of the episodes. It's all based on Philip K. Dick stories, like like Blade Runner, Total Recall, all that kind of stuff. But additionally, Black Mirror, another show.
I love Black Mirror.
Talking about Friends, they just recently posted a promotion for the new upcoming season, and it was called the one where Ross predicts San Junipero. I don't remember what the name of the episode was, but and then it cuts to an episode of Friends where Ross is talking about technology and putting your brain into a robot body and basically living forever.
Yeah,
and that's what that episode was about.
Well, so here's where I see Netflix going, because I mean we're already talking about it. I want to get back to
Star Trek, we definitely need to get back to Star Trek.
The last thing I want to say about it is here's where I see Netflix going. What's going to end up happening is, like, they're gonna push out all this new. They're gonna have all this new content. They're gonna get rid of this syndication of the networks, and they're gonna push their syndication onto networks. It's gonna be a reverse.
Yeah, it's gonna be a weird thing. Like in my humble opinion, there is too much TV. I don't remember who. It
was
Justin Dolge.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, like I pay $200 a month for cable. I watch maybe 20 stations. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in a month, I don't even watch half of that.
You're telling me you don't watch the bicycling channel?
No, I don't watch ESPN 17. I don't watch the Trinity Network or ABC Family. Even though there is some stuff coming up on ABC Family that I'm going to want to watch. Most of these channels I just don't watch. I watch most of the major networks: TNT, TBS, Cartoon Network. Science Channel,
I do not
Discovery
want to know
Channel.
all the shows or all the channels.
No, but I'm just saying, like that's really about it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So why am I paying for 4,000 channels and I'm watching 1% of them?
I don't know.
San Junipero, that's it.
Yeah. So okay.
The Gifted is really good. I watched the first episode, yes. Yeah. But let's get back to Star Trek.
Where do you, after watching this episode and watching the here next week, where do you think the series goes from?
That is a good question. I see like where do I see season ending, or what's my predictions for the next?
Like we always have predictions for each episode. Like what's going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, like I said earlier, I think we're going to start to see Michael starting to question the motives of Captain Lorca like more and more throughout the next few episodes. I know that they just recently added an additional episode to this half of the season, so we're getting instead of
they added an additional episode.
So we're still getting the same amount of episodes in total, but before the show was on winter break, we're getting an extra episode than we were supposed to get.
Hey.
So I had been thinking that there was going to be some sort of like a mid-season cliffhanger of some kind that was going to take us into the next 4 episodes of the season, or 5 episodes of the season. Now we're coming back and there's only going to be 4 left, I think. So obviously that's not right, because why would they leave it as a cliffhanger and then be like, nope, we're going to add the episode back in now, because that doesn't make sense. So I honestly don't know. Like this show is turning out to be the type of show that I just can't predict where the storyline itself is actually going. Like,
at least at the moment.
Yeah, I can predict character motivations.
Sound.
But it cut down. Let me see if I can fix that.
Sure.
Sam, keep talking about your predictions.
While I'm working on that and sounding like freaking James Earl Jones, my prediction is, here's the thing. Now we have right now we have about 2 to 3 major storylines. One being the Klingons, one being the relationships kind of fraying almost in the Discovery. And we have this
bio drive that everyone's freaking out about. So you have, your plot A, B, and C. I feel like I feel like the infighting is going to. I feel like he's going to like the. I think that the Discovery is going to be resolved in this season. I think that someone somewhere, the conflict is going to die with someone or something, or something even bigger happens than the issues we have with the Klingons. Which, again, far flung theory. It's very possible. As far as the EM drive is concerned, I think that's going to peter out as far as like a storyline concept before the end of season 1. And then what else? And then they have then we have the Klingons, which is the big problem right now. They're gonna they have this coup going on, and you're seeing these interesting things. I think that the coup is going to end. The original Torchbringer or the Torchbearer is going to reign power again, and he's going to bring the houses together and go fight the Federation. That's gonna happen. That's the predictable part. The unpredictable part.
Yeah. By the way, the audio should have reset now,
Yep,
so hopefully we're good.
Yeah, and so like the Discovery is gonna. That's where the big catalyst in between fighting is gonna happen. I think. Now for the next seasons, the next season, I think that the universe is going to expand a lot bigger. We're going to see more aliens. We're going to see more stuff because the hyper focus, which is something that TNG's not really, or any Star Trek is good at doing. I think that's mainly for budgetary problems and story problems. But once season 2 rolls around, I think we're going to see a lot more like Ferengis and Cardassians. I finally did it.
Right. Well, I mean, also something that we have to realize is that this is only the second Star Trek show that has that's done in this format. Enterprise, like there were a lot of filler episodes in Enterprise,
yes.
But overall, each season kind of had its season-long story arc that it was going after. There was the Time War thing, and whatever.
And
like
then you had the Borg with Locutus and everything else.
But that was in TNG. But those were only like 1 or 2 episode arcs. Like
right.
there were never any storylines in Next Generation that went beyond 2 episodes. There was character development, of course, that traverse beyond things, but the storylines were basically one and done. It was episode to episode. Whereas now with Discovery has taken what Enterprise did and what a lot of other shows are doing now, and it's a super serialized thing where
because serialized makes people come back. Episodic doesn't necessarily.
Right. Yeah, with episodic, you can jump in at any point in time, and not have to know what's going on. I like I said, I really enjoyed it. It's just not the same as it was before, but that's fine. It's different. That's good.
So Jarrett says, "Hey guys, TNG ran from 87 to 94. Let it go already. The show bred from a combination of DS9 and Voyager. I refuse. Damn you. I love TNG.
I've let it go. Unlike him, I'm like, yeah, TNG was good. DS9, I think, is one of the most underrated Star Trek series out there.
No, it's good.
I think Sisko is probably my favorite captain.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
Absolutely.
I could see it. I feel like he could have been more. He seems like a lazy commander. He has a lazy.
Oh, the Zindi. That's who it was. Out past the Expanse.
Oh, Ryan came back. Hi.
Hey, Ryan. No worries. So
your prediction.
My prediction is that the show is called Star Trek Discovery. So obviously nothing is going to happen to this ship throughout the course of the series. No matter how long the series runs, this ship will still be around. So I
would never say that the ship is going to blow up.
Right.
The people inside are, but
maybe. But so the spore drive thing, I'm saying I don't see it lasting very long, but at the same time, because the ship's going to be around for the entire run of the series, this whole spore drive thing could be a continuing thing throughout it, unless they get to the point where they're like, okay, well, we can't use the spore drive anymore, so let's find some new technological thing to make the ship go faster. I don't know.
Maybe have we seen any warp bubbles yet? Maybe they find the warp bubble drive at this point.
Well, I mean, the warp bubble thing, that was a weird Wesley Crusher experiment.
Well, I mean, they need to say some kind of warp drive is going to overdo this. Is what I'm going to say.
I don't think so. I mean, because they already have warp drive. They're going to, we know at this point they're not capable of going much faster than warp, like
9.9 or something.
Well, that's the
theoretical limit.
The theoretical limit is 9.9 before going into warp 10, which takes you into transwarp. However, the Enterprise D from Next Generation was the fastest ship that they had at the time that was able to do warp 9.8. I believe in this era of Star Trek they weren't really able to do much more than warp 7, but I don't remember. So if anyone out there knows, correct me on how fast like the original Enterprise was able to go. But so I don't think they're going to actually have any breakthroughs of travel technology that is going to be reliable.
Other than Spore.
Right,
which isn't
other than that,
particularly.
right, which they're going to have to figure out how to take that out of canon since we know it doesn't exist into the future.
Right. So we're going to wrap it up. Where can we find you?
You can find me behind the camera and all of that hashtag show stuff. You can find me, if you want to, on Twitter at the Goldman, TheGoldman. I don't really use Instagram.
He writes a lot, though.
I do write articles for our website every once in a while. My Facebook is private. Sorry, guys. I don't have a fan page because, look at me, why would people be my fans? But yeah, I know I'm going to be with that hashtag show out at LA Comic-Con at the end of October. We do have a couple of special things coming up there that we'll announce over on that hashtag show.
Yes.
It's going to be really cool, really fun. But Sam, what about you?
You can find me at Slimy Samuel Locke at the Instagrams and the Twitters. You can find me at Samuel Locke on the Book of Faces. You can find me at Steam Bunny Productions on YouTube, where I do funny things sometimes. You can find me at the Horror Show for now at the hashtag show, because Achievement Unlock is on a brief hiatus at the moment. You can find me on the Twitch. I do Wednesdays, and I'm going to be picking up days maybe Friday. Maybe
What are you twitching right now?
Right now,
what's your game?
Right now I'm twitching No Man's Sky, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and CSGO. So if you're an FPS guy, come hang out. You're going to hear me take some emotional abuse.
If I was doing Twitch, I'd be doing Cuphead, because that's currently the game that I'm all in on, and it's hard as fuck.
Yeah, I've been watching.
Shane John, Warp 4, thank you. I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure. I thought it was maybe a little bit faster. And yes, I need more science and interaction with other alien races too, because I don't want this to become Klingons versus humans and
for like
Saru.
all 7 seasons.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening anyway. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and continue to watch us every week. We're here every Sunday doing these little wrap-ups with Star Trek. Thank you for watching the Riker Maneuver here at Pop Culture Renegades.
See you next time, guys.
Woo!
And keep talking, because it's going to be awkward.
Words and talking and all the things, because we're shutting down things slowly and surely.